Hey friends, welcome back to Homeschool-ology. If you're a subscriber, thank you for coming back and chatting with me today. If you're new here, this video is made for you. I am going to do a video on Meet the Teacher. So, if you're new here, my name is Nikki. I'm a homeschooling mom of 4. We are entering our 9th year of homeschooling. My daughter, my oldest, is in 8th grade. I have another daughter who is in 4th grade. And then I have a son who just started kindergarten and a fourth child who is doing preschool. So I don't tend to focus real hard on like preschool, like curriculum and things around here. That's not really something that we did. That's why we're only in our 9th year of homeschooling. But my 4-year-old just loves to do school. She's all about it. She wants to learn. She wants to do homeschool. And so we are doing it this year. Before I move on any further, I want to say thank you to Shanna at Making Everyday Magic. I'll link her channel here or down below. Thank you to her for hosting today's collaboration, because this is a collaboration video. And thank you to all the secular moms who are joining in with us today to share all about, like ourselves. So meet our teachers in the playlist that I'll be linking down below. So as I mentioned, this is a collaboration and we're all going to be answering the same questions, which I think is going to be really fun to see how our answers are the same and how they might be different. And so let's jump into the first question. Question number 1 is, what led you to this path? I have talked about this a little bit before. I was an anti-homeschooler. I was how are your children going to be socialized? I was that person. That was me. And that's where I started. I was a teacher in my past life. And so to me, I went to public school. I taught public school. Public school was just what we were going to do. And then my sister-in-law started homeschooling, and I started to see kind of like what that life was. And I still remember driving in the car telling her I could never be a stay-at-home mom. I could never homeschool my kids. I don't know how you do it. I'm think about that day all the time, and I'm like, what was I thinking? But as my oldest daughter got older, she struggled really hard with social anxiety, like being in any kind of group. She would get really upset, like cry in the corner upset. It was very overwhelming for her. She was overstimulated by the noise. She didn't like to be away from us. And I had a negative kindergarten experience. I had a mean kindergartner teacher. I'm not just remembering that like my mother, no, she was mean. Like she was mean. I didn't want to go. I didn't want to be away from my mom, so that was upsetting for me. I didn't like being in a social, environment. I was a very shy child, and my teacher was really mean about it. And it kind of like gave me this negative association with school. Now, don't get me wrong. I did well. I did well. I went into teaching. I mean, it wasn't like it was a complete negative, but I feel like I could have enjoyed learning so much more if that wasn't my first experience. And it took me a long time to kind of like heal from that, I guess, and learn to love learning again. And so I didn't want her to start out her path that way. I didn't want that to be the beginning for her. And you guys, I didn't want to send I went back to teaching for 6 months after she was born, and that was it. I was done. I was like, I don't want to be away from my baby. I want to watch her grow. And so it was kind of a combination of all those things where we started thinking, well, maybe homeschooling might be the right answer. I was teaching at the time, in the very beginning, and so I kind of knew like the backside of the public school system and kind of the things that I didn't like about how the schooling system was moving, the direction it was moving, and how I couldn't spend time teaching my kids problem-solving skills, in school. I couldn't teach my students how to problem solve and how to research and find answers, because we were concentrating so much on like the things they needed to know, the things they needed to memorize essentially. And I was like, that's not really what I want for my kids. I want them to know how to find the answers, not what the answers are. And so my husband agreed with me. He felt the same way. And so we were like, you know what? Let's homeschool her for the first year. We'll see how it goes. We can put her in once she's had a little bit more time to get used to, you know, being in crowds. We had put her in some dance classes and to, you know, give her time to get used to being in a group of people and then put her in. And once we completed that first year, we were sold. We were done. That was it. We were homeschoolers now. It didn't even take the first year. It was half a year. And even though that year was really hard, it was still better than the thought of her going to school every day. So that's why we started. I did not plan on this. This was never the path I was going to take, but I'm so happy we did. So I'm just going to read the question here because it's a little, some of these are a little long. So what subject or topics do you love teaching the most, and why are they your favorite? So immediately I think of science. That's what my degree is in. That's what I taught in high school. I love teaching science. I really do. I find science really interesting and engaging. But since starting homeschooling, I think it might be history, guys. I think I might like history more. The way we've been learning history by, you know, going to these places and then learning the history about them either before we go or after we go, and just diving deep into a lot of these topics that I didn't really learn that much about before, it might be history. So I'm gonna have to say history and science might be tied for this one. Number 3, what is your teaching philosophy and style? I would say it's kind of evolved a little bit over the years from like teaching in public school to teaching in homeschool, and teaching in a co-op environment. I would say I'm a pretty relaxed teacher. However, I want you to follow the rules. So like we can have fun, but you have to be following the rules to do that. So so some people might look at me and say I'm a little strict, especially in our co-op environment, but I would say I'm pretty easygoing as far as like, you know, all I require is that you're learning and having fun, not, you know, not much beyond that. Learning, having fun, and following the rules. I would say my teaching philosophy is kind of like, have fun, really. I mean, like, learning should be fun, and I want to instill like learning should be fun in any student that I'm teaching. And so while we need to learn, while we have things that we have to do, we have obligations, we can try to find ways to do that in a fun way. Number 4, again, I'm going to read this one because it's long. As a homeschooling mom, what are some of the biggest challenges you face in balancing your role as a parent and a teacher? I'm going to go ahead and add on and a working mom because really for me it's all about finding ways to like balance time, because if I feel stressed out about one of these things over here, it can definitely affect my, you know, my parent or my teacher brain or self or personality. And so working on balancing, like, for me, it's about time, like setting time apart to be, for me, I am self-diagnosed ADHD here, but I really need to have like a schedule. So for me, it's like setting like this day or this night when I'm working, I'm going to be working on being, you know, my homeschool stuff and getting that stuff ready. And then the next night I'm going to be working on this channel. And then the next night I'm going to be, you know, taking a break, spending some time playing some games with my kids. And then the next night, so for me, it's about like scheduling it out, like actually saying, you know, tonight, this is my task, this is my goal, and including, you know, spending time with my kids as part of that goal, or just taking the night off, because rest is productive. So it is a balancing act, and it's something that I'm constantly working on. Even 9 years in, it's still something that I'm working on. It's still something that I have, you know, that I'm not struggling with, but still something that I work to improve because I don't have all the answers. So the challenge for me is really just, since I have so many spinning plates, like putting those spinning plates in order of priority and working on, you know, this is what needs to take priority now, or this area is falling and slacking, so I need to put this one above this other one for right now. And so that's for me, I guess time management is maybe my biggest challenge. Number 5, how do I create a conducive learning environment for my children? So for me, and I talk about this a lot, how you don't have to have a homeschooling space, and you don't. You can absolutely not have a homeschool space. For us personally, I feel like I only got a homeschool space maybe 2 years ago, and so for me personally, like, this is a new thing for us, but it really kind of did define, like, or add structure for us. Having the homeschool space kind of said, like, when we're in here, when we're at this table, this is what we're doing, this is what we're focusing on. So creating an inviting space for them to come and be together, but then also, like, allowing us to go sit on the couch one day, or go do our reading on the couch because it's more comfortable over there, or take our stuff outside for the day because we have a rare, beautiful weather day here in Florida. It's not raining or 100 degrees, you know. So both having structure and being flexible, if that makes sense, like having structure but allowing for flexibility within that structure, is kind of how we've created a learning environment. Also, having lots of books available to my kids. We are big book lovers here, so as you can see back here, and this is just one of many bookshelves in our house. And just having books available, having access to things, having, even just having like our little Google Home thing where kids can ask, they ask me something, I'm saying I don't know, we can just ask about it, or we go look it up on the computer, or just making learning part of our everyday helps with creating a positive learning environment. Number 6, what resources or curriculum do you find most helpful in your homeschooling journey? So, as I just mentioned before, books. We love resource books around here. We have tons of them. And my kids literally sit down with a resource book and look through them. Like, it's something that they actually do. Like, so I love providing lots of options for them to sit down and just, hey, you know what, this sounds interesting today. Let's read about this, So that, curriculum-wise, I would say, I don't know. I like piecing up many together to make the structure that I want. And so I guess a way to answer that would be kind of tell you what my favorites are. My favorites have been Pinwheels and Brave Writer, and that's like the curriculums that I really enjoy. I piece together most of my science and history stuff. I'm really enjoying science chunks. I find them very helpful. So I don't really have I do a lot of piecemeal. I do a lot of making it what I want. So I don't know that curriculum per se. Other resources besides books would be my planner. Planning resources are really helpful to keeping my homeschool on track, keeping things going. Okay, number 7, how do you tailor your teaching methods to meet the individual needs and learning styles of your children? So the fancy name for this, if you don't, is called differentiated learning. And it's how do you take the same thing and make it different to meet the need of the specific student. And I did a lot of, extended education on this when I was a teacher. So I implement a lot of those things that I learned, but really just kind of gauging how my child's attitude is and if they feel like I can push them more or if I don't need to push them as much. But I guess the biggest thing would be just going on their time scale. We don't follow my daughter's in 8th grade. Not everything we're doing is on an 8th grade level. Following her, she's doing Algebra 1, which is really most kids do in 9th grade, so she's ahead there, but we're using, 6th grade spelling connections because that's not her strong suit, so that's something that so just kind of gauging where my child are and moving at their pace and being okay not finishing a curriculum in 1 year. If it takes a year and a half, that's fine. And so just kind of taking cues from my kid. And then if they're struggling, if they're, every lesson is ending in frustration or tears or aggravation, or they're just not happy, being okay to drop something and try something new. I think those are the ways that I kind of meet the needs of my different learners. Number 8, do you involve your children in the planning of their lessons and educational goals? If so, how? So this one is probably a yes and no for me. Yes, I I feel like children learn better when they're interested about something. So for instance, last year my daughter wanted to use all the History Smashers books to learn about, you know, those things. She just loves the History Smashers books. So we designed entire unit studies based on each of those books so that she, you know, so she chose that. And then I found resources that would make that, you know, make it easier for her to learn or make it better for her. So yes, in that sense, anything extracurricular like history, science, like any of those things, I let them have input on what they want to learn about. The two subjects that they don't necessarily, so they have input as far as like they don't like a certain curriculum and they want to try something different. They have that input, but they don't have input on whether or not they get to do it. Math and language arts are non-negotiable around here. You have to do those. They're not optional. And then I, you know, say, this is what level of this you're using and that is what level of that you're using. But even with Brave Writer, I let my daughter choose the books that we read. So yes, I let them choose and I let them be involved because I feel that they're just more engaged and more, if they have a little bit of ownership over it, they're willing to do it a little bit easier and a little bit more. So yes, I do, but also no. Number 9. What are some of the extracurricular activities or field trips you organize to enrich your children's homeschooling experience? So number 1 is we are a part of a co-op. If you haven't been around, I am the chair of that co-op, and we have been doing that since my oldest was 6 years old. There was a time during, you know, those years where it wasn't up and running, but we're back to it now. In the past, my children have done like dance, soccer, acting classes, art classes. We have a local, like our city has some art classes. So we've done those. This year, currently, we are going to, my oldest is in those art classes. Oh, we've done piano in the past too. My middle daughter is doing ukulele, both like a private lesson at our home, as well as she's going to start a group lesson. It's really just her and one other student who's her friend. But they're going to start that at our local, like, they do acting and music and all kinds of things there, but they have a big homeschool group too because the owner and the people that work there, they homeschool their children as well. And then as far as like field trips go, we are part of a local like homeschool group. The co-op kind of formed out of that group, so we're in that group as well. And they create a lot of like field trips. Like there's people that like you can be, as a part of that group, you can plan a field trip and invite people to come along with you. And so there's lots of moms who plan field trips. So we kind of join in on those when we feel like it. Every once in a while, we'll plan a field trip with friends. You know, like instead of doing a play date, we'll go somewhere. But we also like to plan field trips to places where we can learn about the history of those places. So I'm saying field trips, but they're really like our vacations. And so we'll kind of, we like to do lots of museums when we're traveling and see all the different museums and learn about all the different, you know, like we love doing historic homes and learning about how people lived during, you know, in that home during when it was built and all of those things. And last, number 10, what do you find most rewarding about being a homeschool mom and teacher? So for me, it's all about being with my kids. Like I just feel really fortunate and really excited that I get to be with my kids, you know, most of the time. We're together a lot of the time. And so watching them, being able to be with them and watching them grow and watching them learn, and it's so exciting and rewarding when, you know, light bulbs click for them. I've talked about this before in the past, but I just love it when a kid's light bulb goes off, when things just start clicking for them and they get so excited. And and then, you know, just having the freedom. The best thing about homeschooling for me is having the freedom to do what we want when we want. And so I just love, like, we can travel whenever we want, take off time whenever we want. If somebody's having a bad day, we, you know, can take the day off. We can just, the flexibility of homeschool just lets it be so rewarding to us, because we get to live the life that we want to live without being tied to, you know, a public school schedule. So I hope that you guys found any of this interesting or helpful to you, or any of that. I'd love for you to share if you want to answer any of these questions down in the comments. I'd love to hear how, you know, about you as a homeschool teacher. And thank you again to Shanna for hosting, and all the other secular homeschool moms here on YouTube that are part of our group for sharing as well. I'm super excited to watch these videos. And that's going to be it for me today. Don't forget, you can always follow us over on Instagram at Homeschool-ology, and I hope you will come back and chat with me again real soon. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.